Welcome to Hungry Dads, your guided tour through the delicate and often overwhelming balancing act between food indulgences and social acceptance. And now, as always, here are your hosts, Rod Budget and Hugh Gallen.
Hello and welcome to episode 46 of Hungry Dads. I'm Rod Budget.
I'm Hugh Gallen. Hello, hello.
Hello, and tonight we're going to talk about some fast food items that are in the news, and we're going to lead off with the McWhopper. And this is not a real thing. For those of you who haven't heard, Burger King, out of the blue basically, proposed to their arch rival McDonald's that they combine their two signature sandwiches, the Big Mac and the Whopper, to form the McWhopper, which was obviously tongue-in-cheek, but was it? Would Burger King have really done this if McDonald's had said okay, which didn't happen? I think this is an interesting tactic, and Hugh, did you hear about the whole McWhopper offer? I'm sure you did.
Yeah, I did. I saw the headlines and then dug deeper, and yeah, I was disappointed to hear it wouldn't happen. The first thing that came to my mind was another interest of mine other than food that I haven't mentioned much. It's comic books. There's two big comic book companies, DC and Marvel. And in the 80s, they started doing crossover events where Superman, who's a DC character, and Spider-Man, who's a Marvel character, they live in different universes. But they would have a crossover of these two characters. Wolverine and Batman, Green Lantern and the X-Men. They would end up having an adventure together, and the adventures always went the same way. At first they'd fight, and then they'd realize that they shouldn't fight each other, they should fight the bad guys, who is also, the Joker, along with Doctor Doom from Marvel. So these crossover events, and my point is this, they're awesome. These crossover events are exactly what the fans want, and they service both sets of fans. Burger King and McDonald's have their passionate fans, and both sides of the aisle would cross over just a little bit for the McWhopper.
I think so. There's definitely a rumbling of excitement throughout not only the food community, but just general news and social media about this. And I think you're right. These crossover things are always exciting. Let's go over the details of kind of what happened. Out of nowhere, Burger King ran some print ads, interestingly enough, some newspaper ads saying, an open letter to McDonald's, we want to combine and make the McWhopper. And apparently McDonald's response was no, but I'm sure we can work together in some ways to benefit a cause, kind of implying, let's work together, kind of a philanthropic undertone. Here's the most passive-aggressive part. McDonald's signed it, just call next time, and it was from the CEO of McDonald's. So, I understand these are two big rivals, but McDonald's, again, I think comes off as a big jerk.
Yeah, they come off on the wrong side of it, and especially in a time where, as if headlines are to be believed, they're not as beloved as they used to be. They just did a whole campaign about having different people, things that don't get along, loving it. I don't know if you remember that commercial. Yeah. Like Batman and the Joker, or King Kong and the airplane, or whatever, like loving each other.
Or Pay with Lovin', which we'll touch on a little bit later on in this episode.
Yeah,
but
not that loving of McDonald's here.
They are the lead pony still, and they have the number 2 guy trying to kind of initiate something or maybe egg them on, but I don't think they treated it very well. And everything I've read, in kind of PR industry news and ad industry is just praising Burger King for this idea. Because they can't lose.
Yep. Well, it's funny. You use the word passive aggressive, and I think it is clear that McDonald's comes out as the bad guy. But you gotta go to that origin and say Burger King just went ahead and published something. They basically called McDonald's right out and didn't give McDonald's much of a choice, which is probably more passive aggressive. Right. But they can get away with it, and there's a hipness to it, and it is obnoxious. It's like establishment versus anti-establishment. I'm surprised McDonald's couldn't, with all the resources they have, couldn't come up with a better response than what they did. I feel like they should have the power to come up with a classier, wittier message.
I think wittier would be the key, because Burger King was being witty, and I think they're often seen as kind of a younger brand, and they had the Weird King commercials for a long time, and McDonald's is seen as older and stodgy, and young people viewed as unhealthy and evil. But at least come back with a message. Even if you're saying no thanks, be funny about it. Acknowledge that it's funny, which I don't think they really did.
Yeah. I think that's where they missed. They needed to just acknowledge it. Oh, yeah, that was a funny idea. Good one, Burger King.
Let me ask you this as the next logical question, Hugh Gallen. Would the McWhopper be appealing?
Sure, I think it would be, and I think it's really, the concept is more exciting than the actual sandwich. I think the idea that these two rivals have come together is what's exciting.
Hungry Dads.
So speaking of McDonald's, our listeners may remember back in episode 29, Employees Only, we spoke at length about a McDonald's campaign of paying with lovin', and I'd just like to play a brief clip to remind our listeners what that was kind of all about.
Hi, welcome to McDonald's. How can I help you?
2 hash browns and a small coffee.
You know what, for your payment today, do you have your cell phone with you?
Yeah.
Dial up your mom, tell her you love her.
Excuse me? I thought you'd just tell me how much it is.
That is how much it is. Boom!
So just as a refresher, Pay with Lovin' was a campaign where the McDonald's employees would select a random person as they come in the door, and they could get their order for free by doing a random lovin' act, whether it be a hug, a high five, calling their mom and telling them they love them, etc. So we have some fans out there who heard our episode and got in touch with us, and we were able to interview them about their very own experience with McDonald's and this campaign. Greg and Gene Stock were kind enough to swing by the Hungry Dad studios and let me interview them about their experience, about their feelings towards it, and let's hear what they had to say. We're honored to have some special guests today on Hungry Dads. We have Greg and Gene Stock, who were selected recently to participate in the McDonald's Show Me Some Lovin' experience. Welcome. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules. So before we get into your specific experience, tell me a little bit about your overall relationship with McDonald's. Do you go there often? How do you view McDonald's? If you go there, what do you get?
Well, I'll speak to that. We take our son there a lot. He loves the McDonald's experience, Taco Bell, fast food, Burger King's a biggie for him, as well as the family restaurants in our area. So we get there probably once every other week.
You have a positive connotation with McDonald's.
Yeah, we have breakfast there sometimes. We ride our bikes down there. We live on a trail, so we sometimes go for breakfast there. Gives us an excuse to eat the bad food.
But we wouldn't go nearly as often if we didn't have a son who liked it so much.
All right, now on to your fateful lovin' trip. What were you going for? What time of day was it? What was the overall scene?
Yeah, we had gone for a coffee and maybe something light, and then when we discovered what they were going to spring on us, we thought, oh my goodness, we could have had a giant breakfast. Yeah, so we were going for just some coffee and read the paper.
I think we were killing time before we had blood work done.
Oh, we were donating blood, that's right.
Yeah.
Ah, very nice.
And there was a McDonald's in the same parking lot.
And when you entered the McDonald's, at what point exactly were you approached? Did you know that something strange was happening? Who approached you? When did they approach you?
Well, actually, I'll let Greg answer that one because he was the one approached by the cashier. It wasn't until we were paying our bill.
Ah, that's right. We went ahead and ordered, and as I said, it was a surprise after the order was done. Then you don't get a chance to enhance your order. The young lady said, today you don't need to pay us. You can pay with love.
And what did you think when she said that?
My goodness.
Had you heard of this campaign before? Did you know what was happening? Or did you just think it was a bizarre thing for her to say?
Well, it seemed a little unusual. I was taken aback to this cute young girl speaking to me, a fairly middle-aged man.
Yeah.
And
was there any jealousy involved on your part?
As a matter of fact, I did wonder what was going on, that this woman or this young girl would talk to my husband like that,
very bold,
right in front of me.
Yes.
Yes, so she said, you can pay with love. And I said, oh, my goodness, does that mean I get a hug? And she smiled really big, and it was quite good for the ego, I'll say. And I said, well, great. And she gave me a nice hug at the neck, and so it was quite a positive experience.
Did you realize you were getting free food, or did they explain it to you later?
Oh, she explained it then.
Right.
Okay, so good. You knew something was up.
Now, I need to edit something. He referred to himself as fairly middle-aged. I think the proper category is senior citizen.
Wow.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you for that clarification. I lost my head.
We like to be accurate.
Yes.
So how much total did you save? Do you know approximately? Was it it seems like a small order probably.
It probably was a small order.
Under $5.
Yes,
Yeah,
definitely.
I'd say so, yes.
So we figured that's why we were chosen, because we had a cheap.
It's supposed to be random, but you never know how these things. And would you classify the girl's participation, the employee, as enthusiastic or reluctant or somewhere in between?
She was definitely enthusiastic,
Oh,
which
good.
is, I have
Good
to
to
say,
know.
it was a positive experience for me, because to see young people be enthusiastic about their jobs, I really believe
sounds
in
like
that.
it was a positive experience for you.
It was, and I will
Probably
say,
more positive for Greg than for me. But being the frugal one in the family, I was glad to get a free meal.
now I will say that same following week I saw an article in the Wall Street Journal or New York Times, I can't remember which, a young lady, or I don't know what her age was, she complained about the new McDonald's program, loving it, paying for it that way. She thought it was a harassment that she had to interrupt her day. And I thought to myself, wow, what a way to look at that, when people are being positive and patting you on the back.
Free stuff. Yeah.
But I guess so. Some people didn't care for it so much. But I got to say, when I read that one of the papers, I disagreed totally on that.
So I guess if given the opportunity again, knowing that you're going into a McDonald's and you could pay for loving again, you would embrace it.
I'll pay for loving anytime I can. With loving, I should say.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. I love hearing. We brought up a lot of questions in episode 29 about it, and we really could only think about this pay with loving concept kind of in the abstract. And we had a lot of, well, what do people think of this and what do people think of that? And granted, this is only a sample of one, but it already illuminated so many of the questions I had about this promotion.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like I always felt a little bad after hearing this, because I think we were both a little bit negative on the campaign and the poor employees have to go through this, which I'm sure there were still some who weren't enthusiastic, but it sounds like from this experience at least, everybody was enthusiastic, especially Greg getting the hug from the young employee. And I think that was a Freudian slip there at the end. Greg seems like a very nice, very humble gentleman, and I don't think he would indeed pay for lovin' anytime, but would pay with lovin'.
Hungry Dads.
So I want to step away from burgers and talk about another fast food marketing effort, and I want to start that with a clip.
I'm Colonel Sanders, and I'm back, America. I'm back, America. It's still finger-licking good.
Now I want to speak about the classic marketing technique of KFC, and that is, of course, Kentucky Fried Chicken's quintessential spokesman, Colonel Sanders. Colonel Sanders has legitimately been with KFC since the beginning. Literally, the man who started the company was Colonel Sanders. And then, even after he passed, they used his image, his likeness, as their symbol, as their mascot, as their personality. And I think the Colonel Sanders campaigns have come and gone over the years, but he's back. That particular clip was the newest Colonel Sanders, Darrell Hammond, who's from Saturday Night Live. They've resurrected the Colonel, and I don't know if these ads came out maybe a few months ago. I immediately recognized something off about this Colonel, in my opinion, and I then figured out it was Darrell Hammond. Rod, you seen the Darrell Hammond Colonel Sanders? What did you think?
I have, and I kind of had the same creepy feeling. It was a little bit weird, and I think because I associate him with Saturday Night Live and being a comedian and certain characters from Saturday Night Live he would play, and now all of a sudden he's the Colonel, who is this revered, very well-known person from the South and has this great brand equity, and it was just a little bit jarring, frankly.
So I immediately took it as a misstep. I agree that they took a face known from somewhere else to play this iconic character who really shouldn't be identified as a celebrity. And so I kind of made a little commentary on our Twitter about it, which is basically that I thought I like my Colonel a little more iconic. And I checked out the rest of the campaign and was generally unimpressed. And I followed the press, and much of it was was fairly similar, but some people said, hey, KFC's got to do something a little bit different. The Colonel isn't intrinsically hip or cool.
It almost reminds me of one of these like ad agency client situations where I could almost see the clients saying, we need to be more hip, but we have to keep the Colonel, like, in some way. And that big compromise was, okay, we'll use a celebrity Colonel, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah. So this is Darrell Hammond as the Colonel again, and you tell me if you thought this worked.
Howdy, folks. This is me, Colonel Sanders. For $5, you can fill up your car with gasoline, or you can fill up yourself with my $5 fill-up with finger-licking good sauce. It's tender, it's juicy, it's delicious. 3 chicken tenders, taters, and gravy. I throw in a biscuit and a big old cookie. My $5 fill-up will fill you up, guaranteed. Isn't that right, Philip? It's still finger-licking good.
Yeah, it's just confusing, kind of. Like, is it supposed to be funny? It goes back to the great Miracle Whip debate of, is it trying to be what it is, or is it just making fun of itself, or is it just serious? Like, is he just really trying to be like the Colonel? I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. It has the same shades of that Miracle Whip commercial, which is to ask yourself, is this self-aware or not? And I don't think it is.
Yeah.
But then again, I am actually starting to get a little bit closer to that older generation, and maybe this speaks to the youth in some way as quirky or interesting. I mean, we talked before also about the Burger King with that creepy king, and that actually flopped, I think most people agreed. And so I think this has shades of that, shades of the Miracle Whip issue with trying something and not knowing if it was intentional or not. I have a clue as to the answer, and I could be wrong, but in order to lead me to that clue, I want to play another clip.
It's come to my attention that there's an imposter colonel out there. He's trying to be me. That's crazy. They can't just grab some super funny Hollywood actor, throw a white suit on him, and try to pass him off as the real Colonel Sanders. And I should know because I am Colonel Sanders. And this is my incredibly delicious $5 fill-up meal. I'm Colonel Sanders. I know that. It's finger-licking good.
So that was Norm Macdonald as the Colonel, coming immediately after Darrell Hammond as the Colonel. And I think this happens one of two ways. So first of all, if you're not initiated, Norm Macdonald is another comedian, another Saturday Night Live alum, now playing Colonel Sanders. Now, as I see it, there's one of two possibilities here. The first is that KFC decided all along that in order to start to be hip, they were going to have a rotating cast of various takes on the Colonel from different comedians, thinking, there's a lot of Saturday Night Live alums out there looking for work who are talented people, no doubt. So maybe we'll work our way through some of them. And that's one possibility. And that would lend towards there was a self-awareness from the beginning with the Darrell Hammond decision. For creative purposes, they kind of let these people do their own take with their own humorous take on the Colonel. And I'll say, I don't know a lot about Darrell Hammond, but I know him to be a little bit of an odd dude. And so I could imagine that weird take on the Colonel had a lot of Darrell Hammond in it. There's another possibility that Norm's introduction and the way that ad is introduced is a direct response to the flop that was the Darrell Hammond Colonel. And I actually think this theory is stronger. I think it's KFC kind of telling us, yeah, that whole thing was ridiculous, so we'll amp it up to a new level of ridiculousness with Norm Macdonald, who, if you know Norm Macdonald's comedy, he doesn't really play characters that well. Yeah. He's kind of always himself, and he was clearly just being himself there. And then he'd kick it into the Colonel for a second, and then back again to Norm. And I think that was a commentary, in my opinion, on, yeah, that didn't really work, and this isn't really working either, but hopefully you'll think the whole thing's funny if we try to act like it was never serious in the first place. Rod, what do you think? Am I onto something here, or am I overthinking KFC Colonel?
No, I tend to agree with you that it probably is the latter scenario where they got a bunch of negative feedback and then kind of decided to go with it. I think it's pretty funny, actually, and even if they are doing it reactionary, if they can pull it off, I think it's a funny concept, even if it wasn't the concept from the very beginning. I mean, I can get behind a bunch of random celebrities like playing the Colonel and making fun of it. I mean, that's kind of funny. I don't think they're going to let him go nuts and like make fun of the Colonel, but if they can say quirky things and say, hey, I'm obviously not the Colonel, but something along those lines, or even have people like who are like look nothing like, I'm just picturing like a fat female or something like being the Colonel, like Oprah maybe. I don't know. They can't afford Oprah.
They could continue to take it to various levels of absurdity and maybe get somewhere with it.
Yeah. Or like a dog or something, a famous celebrity dog. Rin Tin Tin.
Or Flipper.
I'm pretty sure they're all deceased. We're showing our age. Who's the cool animals out there today?
what animals are the... How about the dog from Frasier? That's still pretty
Yeah,
good.
that's way old, man.
I don't know.
I don't think there are any celebrity animals right now. That's kind of sad.
There has to be.
They're probably... we just don't know.
On YouTube.
If any of our listeners know of celebrity animals, let us know.
Keyboard Cat from the internet's even aged at this point. I mean, maybe it's just because the internet's so flooded with cats that are hilarious.
Grumpy Cat.
Grumpy
Cat is the Colonel. I can get behind that.
Grumpy Cat is the Colonel. Honestly, I think KFC's probably on their way there.
Yeah.
So
if they hear this, they will be.
I definitely think Norm Macdonald is a step up from Daryl Hammond. I do think that Norm Macdonald as the Colonel is way less funny than Norm Macdonald as Norm Macdonald. So from a Norm Macdonald standard, it's actually not that funny at all. But from a Colonel Sanders standard, I think Norm Macdonald makes it pretty funny. So this is a step in the right direction. I actually hope they keep it up with some celebrities who I really like. Jim Gaffigan as the Colonel. Come on, that could work.
Hungry Dads.
Working our way through the fast food universe, I want to now talk about Arby's. And Arby's has their own efforts to be relevant. And the angle they took with relevance recently was this.
Arby's. Isn't there anywhere else we can eat Arby's with sliced something? Technically, it's food. Come for the tweets. Run from the meats. Why not challenge your stomach to a fight?
It's like shock and awe for your bowels. The meal that's a dare for your colon.
It's like if a stomach could get punched in the balls.
Thank you for being a friend.
So that was an ad that Arby's ran in the last episode of The Daily Show with Jon Stewart. What it was clips of Jon Stewart talking about Arby's over the years. And if you were listening, you'd basically pick up that Jon Stewart made it a regular habit to make fun of Arby's. That it was tasted bad, that it made you sick. Nothing kind to say about Arby's. And what Arby's decided to do was embrace it, own it, and in fact sponsor the last episode and run this ad of Jon Stewart ripping on their product. Rod, after listening to that, do you think Arby's comes off better or worse in your mind as an average consumer?
Here's the thing about that. I'm generally a fan of kind of edgy marketing and whimsical and being on the edge and embracing people who are making fun of you. But I think it was a mistake for this reason. The finale of The Daily Show is going to get a lot more viewers and a lot more non-Daily Show viewers than just a regular episode. So I think in Arby's mind, they were probably like, these people think that we're bad. He's been, making fun of us for all these years. And let's just kind of embrace it. And, they'll probably think it's funny. It's not going to hurt us. But I think I watched the finale of The Daily Show and I had stopped watching it, years ago.
Same.
So I think they're reaching a lot of people who never knew that Jon Stewart just ripped on them the whole time. And now they've just summarized it in 30 seconds for all these new people. And they're like, oh yeah, Arby's does suck. Thanks, John.
Yeah, I thought that's an analysis I hadn't actually gone through. I mean, they served it right up on a platter for me to catch up on everything I missed. And now it's in my head. And it makes Arby's a little bit laughable now. Whereas before, maybe that wasn't my first thought. So yeah, they have kind of replaced Arby's identity in my mind. It probably sounded appealing to embrace it, especially since Arby's has been trying to do some quirky things. They bought Pharrell's hat or something one time. I don't know if you heard about this. Pharrell, who's a singer or a rapper. Yeah, we're old.
He does the raps.
He does the rapping. And he has this big hat that he wears, and he auctioned it off. And Arby's bought it. Arby's has bought some weird things. They've been trying to be quirky, and I think this was another attempt at it. But as you said, it might have been a bad place, bad time effort. They didn't need to prove to me that they were cool with the joke, because I didn't even know the joke existed.
Hungry Dads.
Rod, let's wrap things up with tacos. We've been through burgers, we've been through chicken, we've been through roast beef. Tacos. Taco Bell. I want to take this opportunity to do something we do from time to time on the show, which is to share another broadcaster or another media source that we respect and appreciate. And I want to share with our listeners a new podcast. It's only 4 episodes out right now, but it's called the Bellcast. And what the Bellcast does is each episode's very short, 5 to 10 minutes long, reviews an item on the Taco Bell website. But it doesn't just review it. It gives a poetic and effective description of the item. I'm just going to share some quotes. I'd love to play some clips, but I don't know if someone else's podcast and our podcast is fair, because you really just need to go look up the Bellcast for yourself and listen to them when you're done listening to Hungry Dads. For instance, the Bellcast described the cheesy bean and rice burrito as roughly as girthy as a silver dollar and as long as the rubber of a bicycle handle. I both now have an understanding of how big the thing is, and I've never heard anything described like that before. It's effective, it's poetic.
Brings a tear to the eye. When
the reviewer described his love-hate relationship with Taco Bell's beans, which he considered tasteless, he said that they were a blank canvas onto which Taco Bell's magicians may cast their flavory spells. Again, I know what he's saying there. It's interesting. It's very relaxing. It's a well-produced, beautiful sound on this podcast. And it's not just poetic. What he has to say is truly insightful. He described the grilled stuffed nacho. When he describes it, explains that it's well stuffed and you never take a bite of empty tortilla, which I thought was extremely good to know. He noted that he went out to 5 different Taco Bells to get it, and he found it to be, quote, wildly inconsistent. And he compared the triangle shape of the grilled stuffed nacho to the 8-sided crunch wrap. And he said that the grilled stuffed nacho's, quote, longer, more acute form factor reduce the amount of time that your meal is wider than your mouth. Which I think is a great description of saying it's easy to bite into.
Yeah.
It's easy to fit in your mouth. But what a great way to say it. When he's talking about the grilled stuffed nacho, in sum, he asks the key question. He asks, so, is the grilled stuffed nacho a plate of nachos on the go? And I'm not going to give you the answer. You're going to have to check out the Bellcast for his unambiguous, well-reasoned, passionate, and poetic answer to that crucial question. Check out the Bellcast. Become a fan of the Bellcast.
Hungry Dads. Visit our website at hungrydads.com. Follow us on Twitter at hungry_dads. This has been a Hungry Dads production.
We're rooting for you, McDonald's. You can't seem to pull it together.
Yeah. Maybe they'll bring us in as consultants.
I'm sure that's where.
That's my dream. Yeah, with your Lay's copyright.
After Frito-Lay's is done with us.